Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we are studying Jeremiah 10, that's the prophet Yirmiyahu, chapter 10, and we're going to begin with the last two verses of chapter 9, which is where we left off last time, and then we'll do chapter 10. We just finished one of the more famous verses of Yirmiyahu, at the end of chapter 9, verse 23, where Yirmiyahu told us, where the prophet told us what's important. What does God really want? In other words, specifically it was stated that what is true praise? What is true glory? It is the knowledge of God. It is to know that God does kindness, does justice, does righteousness, and that these are the attributes that God wants from us. So after stating the bottom line, and before he was criticizing the people that think that what God wants is ritual, what God wants is sacrifice, what God wants is prayer, but actually what he wants is for us to be good people, justice, righteousness, etc. Yirmiyahu is now going to take aim at another practice, and that is the practice of circumcision, which is obviously something that Jewish people, the people of Judah, felt made them different from the people that were around them. Although some of the other nations around them also practiced circumcision, but in general, the peoples around them were uncircumcised and they were circumcised. So that would lead to the thinking that this makes us somehow better, more holy than them. Yirmiyahu is going to take aim at this in the same way that he took aim at sacrifices. That it's not the whether or not a person has a foreskin which makes him holy or not holy, but rather it's the kind what you are in your heart, whether you're a good person. And this is what he says, verse 24, chapter 9. But remember, we're beginning chapter 10 with this. So Hinei yomim ba'im nu'om Adonai. Behold, there are days coming, says God, ufakadati, and I will take note of, or I will check out, el kol mul ba'arla, all the people who are circumcised, which simply means I'm going to look at all of the people, and I'm going to also look around on Mitzrayim, on the Egyptians, Val Yehuda, and on Judah, Val Edom, Val Bnei Ammon, the people of Ammon, Val Moab, and the Moabites. I'm going to look around at all the countries, these are all the countries that surround Israel, the ones with whom they'd be familiar with, plus Yehuda. Remember, it didn't say Yisrael because the northern kingdom of Israel had already been destroyed by this time. And there's another thing that makes Jewish people different besides the circumcision, but it's also the fact that they did not cut the corners of their hair. They had the peyot, the corners of their hair. So, and I'm also going to look at kol kitzutze peya, all of the people, in other words, the Gentiles that do cut the corners of their hair. Hayoshvim bamidbar, who reside in the wilderness, all of the tribes. Ki chol hagoyim arelim, because all of these nations are arelim, they are all uncircumcised. However, v'chol beis Yisrael, the people of Israel, are leilev, they are uncircumcised of their heart. That so to speak, metaphorically speaking, the circumcision covers the tip of the penis, and in this case, it is saying that their hearts are covered. Their hearts are thick, covered. They don't have open hearts. They're not pure. So the fact that they have a circumcision doesn't make them anything special if their hearts are uncircumcised. That's again emphasizing the point that we just made. Now we're going to begin chapter 10, verse 1. Shim'u et hadavar asher diber Adonai alechem beit Yisrael. Listen, this is a prophet speaking. Listen to the thing which God is speaking to you, house of Israel. Ko amar Adonai. This is what God says. Al derech hagoyim al tilomdu. Don't learn from the ways of the nations that are around you. Umeosos hashamayim al techatu. And don't be afraid because of the signs of the heavens. They who look up to the heavens and the stars and the movements of the planets and the constellations to guide their actions, and then be afraid that this is going to happen, that's going to happen, because it says in the stars, because we know that these other nations, they look at these stars, and we know that these stars, there's meaningless. This is not what controls the world. This is not what controls what happens. The rules, the ways of the, and the customs of the nations that surround you are nonsense. They're meaningless. That's not where meaning is. When they make an idol, they cut down a tree in the forest, and then it's what a carpenter does when he crafts out of the tree a piece of wood and then makes a statue. And then they go ahead and they dress it up with gold and silver, and then they make it strong, and they fix it into place with pegs and hammer and nails so that it doesn't move. The person is required to make the idol. The person is required to dress up the idol. The person is required to strengthen the idol. The idol is nothing on its own. Kitomer miksha hema v'lo yidaberu. They are like a fake person, a scarecrow that just sits in the field. It doesn't do anything. Naso yinasu kilo yitzadu. You have to carry it because it can't walk on its own. Al tiru mehem. Don't be afraid of such things, such nonsense. Kilo yoreu. They can't harm you. V'gam heitei. They can't do you any good, and they can't do you any bad. There's no power to them. There's nothing to them. However, God is the opposite. The idols, you make the idols. When we worship things that are our own creations, we're worshiping ourselves. But when we worship God, we're worshiping our Creator. We're worshiping the one who made us, the one who made everything. Me'ein kamocha Adonai, this is verse 6. There is no one like you. You cannot compare. You can't say, well, God is really powerful, but that's powerful too. And no, there's nothing even comparable. Gadol ata, you are great. V'gadol shimcha begvura, and your name is great in power. Milo yirach hamelech hagayim. Who would not fear you? You who are the king of all the nations. Ki lecha ya'asa. That this is due to you. This is worthy for you. This is appropriate for God. Ki v'chol chachmei hagayim v'chol malchusam. Among all of the wise men of all the nations, all of their kings, all their power, mein kamocha, there's nothing that can even compare. It's not like, they have a king who's powerful and we have a king who's more powerful. That's completely ein kamocha. There's no comparison. Uva'achas yivoru v'yichsalu. All of them in just can be destroyed like nothing. They are. I'm sorry, this Ivaru does not mean Levaer, to destroy, but it actually means it's the commentaries explain this Yivaru v'yichsalu, they are all foolish, from a language we find Ish bar lo yeda, we see in Tehillim. They're foolish, and and the ksil is silly. Musar havolim, even the whatever doctrines and theories and ideas that revolve around each one of these idols is just nonsense. I see it translated as some places as delusional. Eitzu, it's just a piece of wood. It's crazy. The whole idea, the stories and the background of these idols, it's nonsense. Kesef meruka mitarshef yuva. They bring some silver that's flattened out. They bring it all the way from far away from Tarshish. V'zav me'upaz, and they get gold from upaz. These are places. And then ma'aseh charash v'dei tzorev, and through the work of a carpenter fashioning out the idol, and the hands of a person who makes metal and purifies metal and shapes it. Then they take tchelis v'argamon levusham. They dress them up in blue and purple dyed clothing. Ma'aseh chachamim kulam. They're all done by craftsmen. V'Adonai Elohim. They're nonsense. There's nothing. However, God, emes, He is the truth. God, the ideas that surround God, the ideas about God are true. They're honest. They're something. They're real. Hu Elohim Chaim. He's alive. Hu Melech Olam. He is the king over the entire world. We don't make Him. We don't do anything. Nothing that we do, we don't have to dress Him up. This is again continuing with that idea that we said before about the the sacrifices. He doesn't need that. He doesn't need anything from us. Mikitz po tirasha aretz, the entire land shakes when he gets angry. V'lo yachilu goyim zamo. Nations cannot stand before God's anger. In this next verse that we just read, verse 10, the next verse 11 in chapter 10 switches to Aramaic, which is very unusual in this time period. But Aramaic was then a language which was becoming widespread around the Middle East, and because this next verse, so these words, this verse 11 is directed at the other nations, because until now Yirmiyahu was talking to the people of Israel. He was speaking in the language, Hebrew language, and this one he says, "Kidenot temrun lahom." For those that don't speak Hebrew, and this sounds different, that's why, because it is a different language, very closely related to Hebrew, but a different language. This is what you should speak to them. Yirmiyahu is telling the people of Israel, how do you talk to those other people that don't know yet about God, that don't know what He's about? This is what you should explain to them. What makes your God different from theirs? Elohaya di shemaya v'arka lo avadu. Let those gods who did not make the heaven and the earth, which are the gods that you're worshiping, yevadu me'ara, may they be lost, may you get rid of them from the earth, umintchos shemaya eila, and from underneath the heavens. Those gods that didn't have any part in creation of the heavens and the earth, why bother even having them under the heavens on this earth? There's no point in having such gods if they did not create anything, they did not do anything, but rather you created them. In verse 12, he switches back to Hebrew and again talks about the idea of the greatness of the true God. Oseh eretz b'kocho. He is the God who created the land in all of His strength. Mechin tevel b'chachmaso. He's the one who establishes all of the universe in His wisdom. Uvitunaso nata shamayim. It is His understanding that He stretched out the skies above us. L'kol tito hamon mayim bashamayim. It is by His voice that all of the waters in the heavens were placed. This is the idea that God spoke from the Genesis. We know God spoke and created the world. God spoke and placed waters above and waters below. This is from Genesis. And God is the one who makes clouds rise from the edges of the earth. He makes lightning come when it rains, or during the rains, or from the rains. And from His storehouses He brings out wind that blows across the earth. Again, this is the language of ba'er, which is the same language that we saw before, where it means is foolish. People are foolish from knowledge. In other words, people have no knowledge. When Hovish kol tzoreif mi pasel, when it is talking about people are foolish when they don't recognize the true God and they think that there's some sort of power to these idols. Hovish kol tzoreif mi pasel, the person who the creator of metal who makes this idol is ashamed. He's like a fool worshiping this idol. He should be embarrassed. The porn image, the image that was made out of this metal, is a false image. It's nothing. There is no spirit in them. Hevel hema nasei tatuim. They are nonsense. They are nasei tatuim. They are creations of silliness, of I see translated as mockery. Be'es pekudasam yovedu. When it's time for the God to reveal Himself upon this earth, and remember, these nations, yovedu, all of these things are going to be perished. They're going to be destroyed. They're going to be nothing. No one's even going to remember them. Loche elechele Yaakov, but the portion of Yaakov, of Jacob, is not like that. Ki yotzer hakol, who God is the creator of all. V'Yisrael shevet nachlaso, and Israel is his inheritance, is the tribe of God, which is asked to and appointed the mission of teaching the rest of the world, which is why we had that sentence in Aramaic, that Adonai Tzava'ot Shemo, that the name of the Creator is the God, the Lord of hosts. Ispi me'eretz kinasech, get up. I was about to read verse 17, but actually I think this is a good stopping point. And we'll complete chapter 10 in what it'll be Jeremiah 10b, because it changes a little bit of the tone here. So thank you for studying Yirmiyahu chapter 10a with me. Looking forward to completing chapter 10 together. Have a wonderful day.